Okay, let's talk about it. I just finished season 2 of The Pit, and yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. Don't get me wrong, the show is still interesting, the concept is strong, and the characters work. But this season left me with a weird feeling, like something was missing. There are narrative choices I honestly didn't understand. Moments that seem like they're trying to say something big but end up going nowhere. And above all, a pacing that, in my opinion, feels completely different from season 1. So today, I want to break down what I think didn't work, what still holds up, and why this second season didn't hit as hard as the first one. I hope you enjoy the video. First, too much focus on the characters, personal storylines. The first thing that, in my opinion, really affected how season 2 is experienced is the decision to give way more space to the characters' personal lives. And just to be clear, season 1 did mention their private situations too, but they never took up this much room in the episodes. On its own, it's a perfectly valid narrative choice. The problem is that The Pit covers a single work shift, so it just doesn't make sense to suddenly throw in personal storylines we've never seen before, that we can't connect with, and whose consequences we'll never see. It's like they're asking me to get emotional over something they never actually showed me. The clearest example is Whittaker's entire storyline. His character was completely rewritten. From adorable awkward trainee to a man who suddenly gets involved with the widow of a patient who died just a few months earlier, basically becoming a father figure to her kid. And it's not just a massive shift. He's also at the center of a bunch of that, emotional scenes whose consequences we'll never get to see. One of those scenes is the moment with Santos after he tells her he's moving into Robbie's apartment. Never in my life would I have imagined Santos getting upset because her roommate of just a few months wants to move out. She too feels completely rewritten as a character. But more than anything, what's the point of adding such an emotional scene if I can't empathize with it? I haven't seen the relationship they supposedly built over these months. And I won't see what happens after that conversation either. And that's just one example. The whole season is full of storylines that pop up out of nowhere between episodes. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that more than once these choices genuinely ruined the viewing experience for me, because I didn't know how to take them. It felt like watching pieces of a story that had never actually been told to me. Second, the pacing of the show. The second thing that really sets season 1 and season 2 apart is the pacing. In both seasons, everything happens fast, one emergency after another. But the way that pace is handled is completely different. In season 1, the real climax hits in the final episodes, when the shooting victims arrive. The show becomes pure adrenaline, but still manages to carve out some really emotional moments. There's tension, there's urgency, there's a build-up that keeps you glued to the screen. Season 2 does the exact opposite. The closer you get to the end, the more the show slows down. It almost feels like it doesn't want to say anything. More than once during the last episodes, I caught myself thinking, okay, and it's like they just wanted to drag out an open ending without actually building a real climax. And unlike season 1, where the characters are fighting through a desperate situation and barely manage to squeeze in moments of vulnerability, here the entire season seems to revolve around Robbie's mental health. It's an interesting theme, sure, but in my opinion it was stretched out way too long, to the point where it becomes repetitive. Season 2 also tries to recreate a big emergency like the one in season 1, but let's be honest. A hacker attack is nowhere near comparable to a shooting in terms of gravity or emotional impact. And in the end, it just felt like a way to keep the day shift on screen until the final episode. But again, this is just my overall opinion on the season. I'm not a professional or anything, just a casual watcher who got attached to the characters and the story. If you'd like a deeper dive on a specific character, a particular relationship, or certain episodes, let me know in the comments. I'd genuinely love to talk about it with you. And now let's move on to the less serious part of the video, the character ratings for this season. It's something lighter and more fun, so I hope it makes you smile. Whittaker. From adorable awkward trainee to a man who basically steals widows and their kids, I have no explanation. Final vote, 4/10. Robbie. I get the midlife work trauma crisis, I really do, but it was dragged out way too long. At some point, I wanted to hop on that motorcycle and leave. Final vote, 5/10. Santos. She lost all the fire she had in season 1. Now she's crying because the widow collector doesn't want to live with her. Girl, please, final vote, 5/10. King and Langton. I don't dislike them, but compared to season 1 they're so toned down, it's honestly frustrating. Final vote, 5/10. Dana. I love her, but this season she felt like she was stuck repeating the same 3 lines on loop. Final vote, 6/10. Perla and Princess. They managed to sideline them too. I'm devastated. Final vote, 6.5/10. Ogilvy. Nice character growth, but nothing that really stood out. Final vote, 7/10. Al Hashimi. Super interesting storyline, but they gave it like 2 minutes at the end. Apparently Robbie's trauma and the widow collector were more urgent. Final vote, 7/10. McKay. Another character thrown into the void so we could focus on everyone else's drama. Also, she looked better with red hair. Final vote, 6.75/10. Mohan. She was sidelined for half the season, and the rest of the time she was basically Robbie's punching bag. Hashtag free Samira. Final vote, 7.5/10. Abbott. I know you guys really like him, but for me he stays completely neutral. Final vote, 7.5/10. Javati. Honestly, didn't expect it. She didn't convince me in season 1, but this time I loved her. His facial reactions, iconic. Final vote, 8.5/10. Donnie. Funny, genuine, surprisingly deep. Literally everything this season should have been. Final vote, 8.75/10. Emma. Basically the female version of season 1 Whittaker. I adore her. She brings exactly the vibe this season needed. Final vote, 9/10. Shannon Ellis. A breath of fresh air between one Robbie existential meltdown and the next. Truly appreciated. Final vote, 9.25/10. Joy. The best thing about this entire season, no discussion. Final vote, 10/10.